Where'd I go? Welcome to our virtual summit. My name is Tyler Wood, and I'm the Vice President of Marketing at eDynamic Learning. I'm so happy to have you with us today and to have these great panelists with us. Just a little introduction. Our first panelist is Kevin Hodges, who's the Central U.S. K-12 Regional Manager for Google. Kevin is a product of the Texas public school system and takes great pride in working with district leadership throughout the state, spreading Google's presence in education, growing user interest, and striving to drive education technology in creative and unique ways. Kevin is a member of the Google for Education team and collaborates frequently with many Google teams, including G Suite teams, YouTube teams, Google Classroom teams, and Google Chromebook teams. He spent the last 8 years with Google and after 10 years with Apple's education team and helped build the Google for real quick. There's Kevin.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Our second panelist is Jennifer Kohler-Burden, who is the Director of Curriculum for Illinois Virtual School, a statewide public virtual program. Jennifer is proud to have served as a face-to-face teacher in downtown and suburban Chicago, and as a teacher, writer, and now Director of Curriculum for IVS. Her work centers around curriculum, instruction, and program implementation for schools across Illinois. Jennifer has experience in building courses and programs across grade levels and subject areas. And Jennifer championed the Quality Program Initiative at IVS through partnerships with Quality Matters, where she's also a master reviewer, and the Virtual Learning Leadership Alliance. With Jennifer's leadership at IVS, has successfully launched credit recovery, CTE, and middle school programs. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thanks.
Our third panelist is Anthony White, who's received his Bachelor's of Arts in Spanish Language and Literature and a Master's of Art in Teaching from Southern Oregon University. He's worked in various states, including Oregon, Alaska, and North Carolina, and has taught digital media, computer applications, robotics, and much more. And as an education technologist for the Kodiak Island Borough School District, Anthony helped to further advance the youth in rural areas of Kodiak. He has since returned to Oregon, where he's currently teaching an online Spanish and 3D modeling and design course, and is supporting the development of virtual learning programs that service students in the Marcola School District and beyond. And our fourth panelist is Frank Murray, who is the Director of Instructional Technology at Wichita Falls ISD and has been in K-12 education for the past 20 years and post-secondary education for 7 years. With his master's degree in education technology, just like me, and 12 years of facilitating teachers on integrating technology, he has seen a lot of changes in the classroom. Being a Google certified trainer, he has consulted with many districts around the US on how to integrate G Suite for education and getting district buy-in and new district initiatives. Thank you all to the panelists with us today. Just so you know, many of you provided questions when you registered for the panel, so we'll start with those questions first. With so many on the virtual call, you will remain in mute, but feel free to ask any additional questions in the chat panel on the GoToWebinar window. We'll do our best to get your questions answered. If we don't have time to answer all of them, we'll be sure to follow up and provide you with the answers. So let's kick off our first question. This one goes to you, Kevin. How hard is it? I'm sure that's a question you get a lot. How hard is it to get Google or to get Chromebooks implemented in a school district?
Yeah, Tyler, it's a great question. And I've had the great opportunity to put lots of Chromebooks in classrooms over the last 8 years. So I'll just get right to it. G Suite and Chromebooks couldn't be more easy to manage and scale for a school district. There's no imaging, there's no third-party MDM. Everything from an administrative and management perspective is all done via the web. So whether you're deploying 30 Chromebooks for a pilot or 30,000 Chromebooks for a one-to-one, it couldn't be more easy to get Chromebooks in the hands of teachers and students. Another known great feature that's probably not put out to our education community as much is Chromebooks also make a great offline device. Now, you can't peruse the web, you can't watch YouTube videos, but what you can do is you can get to your G Suite tools, so you can get to your docs, your slides, your sheets, your forms, still be able to collaborate and use the tools as you would see fit. And then once you connect to a Wi-Fi network, whether it's at a local McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, everything just syncs very nicely to the web. Chromebooks are inexpensive. Again, they're easy to manage. They're really just built for the web. And we've heard a lot of great success about Chromebooks in our K-12 communities today.
Perfect. Okay, next question. What do teachers need from schools to help support students? This one's for you, Jennifer.
Sure, thank you. Again, good question. So I think the number one thing that teachers need from schools is communication and support. Whenever you start anything new, the communication has to start immediately. I've experienced many times starting to roll something out or even talk about something amongst yourselves as an administrative team, you start getting questions from teachers almost immediately, whether or not you've included teachers in anything. They tend to find out things before anyone's actually released any information. So I tend to err on the early side of things and communicate almost immediately. This is what we're thinking about. We don't have answers right now. Please be patient. And then once you start to figure things out and as an administrative team, then you can move into how you're going to support the teachers. How are you going to support them at all phases? So implementation phase, onboarding, during the actual teaching, all those different times. How are you going to support? How are you going to communicate? Are you going to create teams? Are you going to have a special listserv, a help desk, lead teachers, anything like that? And that really depends on your size and the type of school that you have. Some schools already have professional learning communities in place, which is a great way to foster communication and support. Other times schools are super tiny, and so all their teachers, they only have 20 teachers, so all their teachers can hop on Zoom meetings or things like that. So it really depends on your size of school and what you already have. And I always emphasize to look at what you have before you start trying to get something new. And finally, I think the last important thing is quality curriculum and actually vetting curriculum before the teachers have to use it. I've seen too often in this remote learning time period that teachers are not given solid vetted curriculum, and they're kind of sent on their own. Well, here's a Google spreadsheet that somebody created, or this is an OER website, and teachers are all over the board with quality. So if you really want to maintain your quality as a district or a school, then there needs to be some heavy lifting done before the teachers ever get that curriculum, and teachers need to help in that process as well.
That's great. Great answer. Anthony, what are the most essential tools you would say are needed for online learning?
Well, you don't necessarily need video conferencing like this, but it's really important to be able to see and hear your teacher and students and parents and everything in a real-time environment. It's one thing to pre-record your lessons, but you're missing that connection. So having some sort of immediate connection with your students is pretty essential to online learning. A platform where you can store files and information obviously is very necessary. So you need a really good learning management system. And I think one of the keys to a good learning management system is ease of access. And as Jennifer works with Quality Matters, we can understand how important it is to lay out and design the course so that way students know where documents are, know what they need to do, know what they need to turn in. So that's really essential as well. And then interactive tools, preferably live interactive tools where students can answer questions together, they can engage with activities together, or they could, in the case of Google, they could type in their responses and other students can provide feedback to those responses in real time. And that kind of collaboration is really essential, I believe, to the learning process.
Especially now, right? Great. Okay, Frank, this one's for you. How have you managed parents and students through this remote learning experience, and what concerns were there, if any?
Yeah, I mean, I always say our district's been planning this for 5 years, even though we really haven't, but we started a digital initiative 5 years ago. But I mean, one of the first things we did was set up a parent help desk. We answer parent help desk from 8 in the morning to 8 at night. So give them somebody to talk to to ask those questions. So we also set up an email address for them to do help desk that way. So we were answering their emails, setting them up. Because one thing we did was, okay, my device is broken, or I'm having issues with my device. What do I do now? So every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we had device pickup or swap from 7 in the morning till 7 at night. So we'd schedule a time with them. We had a pretty good plan outlined in our school at home website. So it was pretty straightforward what parents were doing or what our students are supposed to do. But our parents, you know, they kind of knew about Google Classroom because the students were getting in it at home. I mean, we've been using Google Classroom for a long time, but they had questions. So we took all their frequently asked questions and we made 90-second videos for them. So that went from how to get to Google Meet, Google Meet basics, what are your students doing on it, how to sign into a Chromebook. Some didn't know how to sign in a Chromebook, especially our elementary, because we have classroom sets in our elementary, but we were handing out those devices for them to go home. So we deliver a lot of Chromebooks to our elementary campuses. Our principals were checking those out to the parents, but the parents didn't know how to get on. So that was one thing: how to sign in a Chromebook and what does that mean? How to get to Google Classroom, see what work is due for your students, what work have they done. We also how to share an assignment with a teacher if you need to turn something in, how to install certain extensions that will help your student. So we just create those videos on the frequently asked questions to be able to get those parents started.
How long did that take? Was that a big undertaking just to kind of have a set to work with?
Oh, the videos? So frankly,
Yeah.
no, really in the first few days, the parents were like, oh no, what do I need to do here? So we were picking those up. And anytime we get another question that's being asked a lot that comes up, we would just create another video. And I have a wonderful team and they're quick at making videos and putting great videos out there. So with our school at home plan, there was a parent resource page that they could go to and watch those videos to help them get through.
That's great. And they don't have to be super professional, just something that's helpful. I agree. Okay, Kevin, next, how have you worked with other school districts to support students who don't have devices at home?
So we've, honestly, Tyler, I could probably give you 25 or 50 examples at this point. Some things in particular that we've really done is that we've partnered with our Google.org Foundation, where we've been able to give money really focused on devices, professional development, teacher training tools, really kind of honing in on that underserved community, really making sure that those, our community members are, feel comfortable using the tools, have an opportunity to take advantage of the technology. Just from a professional development and teaching and learning perspective, over the last 8 weeks now, we've done multiple EDU webinars where we've had anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000, not just educators, but community, parents, staff members hop online, understand what we're doing in our ecosystem, understanding, as Frank just said, how to log into a Chromebook. Once I've got my device, how can I use this? How can I support my teaching and learning at home? The other thing that we've done is that we've seen a lot of parents taking advantage of our teacher training center. And that's been a revolving, where we continue to update and make sure that our tools are updated as we make new features into Google Meet. We've made a plethora of new features into Google Classroom. We continue to, make Google Drive, a big focal point during COVID. So as we make these changes, there needs to be a great place for everybody to go to and make sure that they can come up and find this information and know where and how we've made those changes. So we've really kind of opened up the gamut to not just Chromebooks and not just the devices themselves, but really making sure that parents, teachers, staff, students are comfortable in our ecosystem and feel good about what we're doing right now during this time.
Great question or answer. Okay, Jennifer, what can I do to make the transition smooth for stakeholders?
Again, I think that the first thing is messaging and communication, trying to get ahead of a lot of those FAQs. I love what Frank was saying as far as getting a list of FAQs. We do the same thing and adding it to the FAQs. I'm stealing the idea of the video for the FAQs. That's amazing because a video is so much more effective than reading. I think one of the things that I had the hardest time when I went to online was that people don't really read. So you can send, you can get overwhelmed with emails, and if the email is too long, this and that, it's so much easier just to send, here's a quick video on how to do this. So I think that the first thing is to get your messaging, the same across all of your team members, so that your teachers, your admin, they're all giving the same message. And then not just a message of what we're doing, but a message of this is going to work and this is going to be great. And the students aren't going to, lose anything. The students are going to love it. I think that the biggest concern that I have with parents and with schools that are new to remote learning or online learning is that somehow the students are not going to be engaged, or something is going to go wrong, or they're going to get a hiccup technically, and they don't really understand what it is. And so I think that out front, we always put out a video that explains exactly what the experience is going to be like, and that you're going to have your teacher, and as Anthony was saying, you can be on video with your teacher and you can see that your teacher's okay. And so I think that really messaging that it's going to be all right. And I hate to be cliche, but everyone's doing the same thing, everyone's having the same concerns, and everyone's working through it. When I was talking to an elementary school and I was advising them on like, what should we do with remote learning in a Zoom meeting? How do we do a Zoom meeting with third graders? I was like, it's not a Zoom meeting. You're not going to be providing instructions for your third graders. What you're going to do is you're going to have all your third graders log in, and they're all going to say hi, and they're all going to say what they did yesterday, and they're going to all show their dog or show their favorite stuffed animal. And it's really just social emotional support, especially at that elementary level. And then you go from there and you start rolling out the actual curriculum. So it just depends on the age, but the number one is it's going to be great. And let me show you why it's going to be great.
You kind of talked about that communication, that consistent message. As administrator, do you kind of write like a template for those teachers so they have something consistent and then they can modify to put their own name in, things like that?
Yes, we absolutely do. We push everything down. We have professional learning communities, so we push everything down through the learning communities. We meet with what we call our instructional coaches, who are our PLC leaders. And they always have their finger on the pulse of what's going on with the teachers, what concerns they're having. Because when you have a full cadre of teachers, some are better at messaging than others, some are more laid back than others. So you really absolutely, I come from a marketing background, so I do understand controlling the message. At the same time, leaving that room for personalization, which will like highlight parts of the message in red, saying those are the parts that you can customize personally, but don't touch the rest of the email because that's all, date information or something that's global to the program that we don't want changed.
That's perfect. I think that gives an extra help for those teachers that are already overwhelmed with a bunch of other things. So thanks. Anthony, how can you engage students with online learning? We were just talking about engaging. What type of things do you do?
Well, the one thing that I do is the first thing I do is reach out to my professional communities. We're in a very small school district. We have some teachers in district who are really pushing technology and the use of technology. But I found other professional learning communities either on Twitter, on Facebook. Bigger enough as like a massive professional learning community with groups and teachers who are sharing tons of information. For example, for world language, and this might be really popular in other subject areas, but it's called Bitmoji virtual classrooms. It's like all the rage right now, where teachers are creating virtual classrooms with Bitmoji. And in using Google Sheets, Google Slides to develop it. It's really cool. So how to make it engaging? Yes, make it personal to the students in your student population. Try and find other communities and learn and see what they're doing in their classroom. Ask around. That's really why reinvent the wheel and try and figure it out yourself when other people have already been doing this long before we went into this 2020 session. So people have been doing it before. So learn from them. And then as far as engaging activities and things, I can name off a ton of tools, but one that I would like to highlight that I think has been very, very beneficial to students is Flipgrid. If you haven't used Flipgrid before, I would highly suggest looking at it because it gives you that visual element between you and the students, and student to student, and even parent to student, and parent to teacher, administrator to student. Like all the stakeholders can be involved in this visual communication back and forth. It's engaging, it's familiar to students, especially ones who may be a little older, who use apps like Snapchat or TikTok, which is very similar to those apps. It integrates with all kinds of learning management systems, and it's really easy to add videos to Flipgrid, and allows you to draw on a whiteboard, allows you to create small snippets of video where you could explain concepts. And it's just a very, very powerful tool. And the best part about it is it's completely free to use. Any educator can use it. And free in my book is like the best thing you can adopt for engaging online learning.
Thanks. That's a great answer. Okay, Frank, what processes did you implement when your school went one-to-one? What were the first kind of steps that you took?
Well, the first steps were we created a Learning with Technology committee, which consisted of community members, admin, students, teachers, I mean, all realms from our community. And we kind of came together and had a plan and asked students questions and what made them want to learn, what made them want to come to school, different things like that. So we started small. We made a plan, took it to the board, got approval, and then we started with 42 teachers out of our 1,200. So I always say a slow rollout is more powerful, so you can kind of find out. And Anthony said, don't reinvent the wheel. Kind of the same way, you know, we were kind of late to the game 5 years ago when we started this, but we were able to find out the successes districts had and the failures. And we constantly learn from year to year. We'll change our plan up. But the biggest deal with processes is really PD. We do badge challenges. We did 3 full days of training with all of our teachers before the students got the devices, and no sit and get. All of our trainings went from sit and get to you were working your tail off from 8:30 to 3:30. I mean, constantly working and making products. We wanted it hands-on, and let's create these products. So that's with our badge challenges. When it came to parents, we had technology meetings at the first of each year on that parent night. We tied it in with federal programs when they were doing all those meetings. We also have a community input group every spring that we talk about what we've done this year, and we get feedback from them and what changes we might need to make. We definitely made sure teachers had their devices at least 4 months before the students. And it's not like the teacher really has to be a pro at that device, but they need to troubleshoot some different things, you know, to learn how to troubleshoot small things. So we put the device in teachers' hands first, at least 4 months before students got them. We really celebrate Google certified educator, level 1 and level 2 here. We have a huge number of our teachers that have that certification. And really, they pay for their own tests. We just buy them a Chromebook to use in their classroom, which we want them to have that already, but we kind of want them to earn that and kind of know how to use it. Another big thing we do to let the community know and our board is we do Digital Learning Day, which is a national day of learning and celebrating. Is we do that every year with community members, board members, other principals from other schools. We've had whole schools bring 30 of their staff to it. And it's just a day for our teachers and students to celebrate what's going on in class. And some class you'll walk in, it'll just be like what they do every day. Sometimes it'll be showing projects. But we do Digital Learning Day every year. And we celebrate wins whenever. I mean, when you get Google Certified Educator level 1, we come out and celebrate, get you a badge. 2, we celebrate, get a badge, take a picture with your students. And we've created an environment where it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
If you're not failing, you're not trying. And that's the thing about it. And we really put that, but we make sure teachers learn from their failures. We don't want you to continue to do the same thing you do over and over and over again. But if you fail, we're going to give you support to try to see why it didn't work and what we need to change. So
that's great. I mean, I agree with you. I think everyone needs to understand that it's okay to make a mistake and just learn from that, because it's hard. I loved what you said, Frank, though, about PD and getting the technology in the hands of the teachers ahead of time. Would you recommend, before schools go back, if we have to, be online for the first part of the school year, would you recommend getting the teachers Chromebooks and making sure that they had PD all summer long so they were really prepped and ready to go?
Of course, and we don't know how learning is going to look next year, and that's the thing we're all trying to figure out. We have A, B, C, D, and E plans of what that's going to look like, or is it a combination of all? So, I mean, that would be the first thing, to put a device in teachers' hands and learn the basics of it. Whatever device you choose. I mean, we tried all the devices. When we had those 42 teachers, we had iPads in classrooms, we had Chromebooks in classrooms, we had laptops in classroom. Because it's not about the device; it's about which device matches your curriculum the best, right? And it was Chromebooks for us. So that's kind of where we've went with that. But the teachers being getting on there and just they've done amazing work. Our school at home has been very good. Now it needs to be better in the fall, but what we have thrown together here has been very good. But we've been planning for it for 5 years. So
well, and I love your digital learning day. I mean, I don't know if that would work with COVID, but maybe there could be smaller groups or things like that. But I love where you could bring the community together, because I think a lot of parents, I know as a parent myself, I have a high school, middle school student, and I have a lot of questions. I would love a day like that. So I think that's an awesome idea.
the biggest thing is they come in and they have an idea of what's going on in these schools, but when they come in, they're like, oh my goodness, I didn't know this was going on. I mean, they get amazed, and it's just cool to listen. We have a question and answer at the end. Last year we had a student panel and a teacher panel where the teachers could just ask them questions, and the student panel went off. It was hilarious and fun, and but it gives the community a totally different outlook on what's going on in schools, because they can actually come in and see it.
Yeah, and it's just one theme, so that's great. Okay, Kevin, is Google able to support the high demand of technology needs right now with COVID? I know with everyone on the internet, do you still feel good with Google being solid?
We feel great. Yeah, Tyler, we feel really, really great. And the other thing too, as you were kind of reading through my bio to kind of kickstart this webinar, a lot of those, outside of the EDU organizations within Google have really stepped up during COVID, saying, what can we do to support our education community? So that's the Google Earths, those are the Google Maps, those Translate, Jamboard, right? So everybody's really kind of stepping up and really supporting the Google teaching and learning at this time. One thing in particular that we've really done as Google Classroom growth has been literally 5x because of COVID. We have opened up Google Meet, which has normally been an enterprise product, is now really kind of geared more to education, where we can have 250 participants and up to 150,000 over live stream. We've really started to see more adoption of those tools, and so making sure that we've got enough space and we can take care of bandwidth and user availability in the cloud. So we've really gone above and beyond to make sure that we're supporting the teaching and learning. The other thing too is anybody that may be on the webinar, we made a really cool announcement last week. It's actually called Read Along. It's a new product that Google put into the marketplace. It's actually a free app that sits on an iPad or a Chromebook, and it allows it allows a parent or student to read along with their parents. And I've got a first grader at home. We've been playing with this over the last week. It's been a lot of fun for us to participate and take advantage of this new tool. But there's another example, Tyler, where another organization within the company has stepped up saying, hey, what can we do to support all of our education community users during this pandemic? So you'll continue to see a lot of great momentum from our side, as we either stay in this mode for the rest of 2020, or we, as Frank just said a little bit ago, ease back into the classroom. So there's a lot of uncertainty at this point, but we feel really good about where we're at right now.
Well, that's good. My sister is a 4th grade teacher, and she reads through Google to her students, and she said that's the one normal thing that she has that the kids really love. So even with all this, so thank you for that.
Can I add something to that real fast? I just want to give kudos to Google right now. It's amazed me as the Google uptime and the changes that have happened to Meet. with everybody working from home from Google. That is, I mean, that's just kudos to Google and what y'all have been able to accomplish through these times. It really has amazed me how y'all have kept up and made the changes and so quickly over this going on. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
We're grateful. Okay, Jennifer, what is a realistic timeline for program implementation?
Well, the question would be, what exactly are you trying to implement? So as Frank said, you know, they've been working on it for 5 years. And so if you are looking to do like an actual virtual part of your school. So there's, you know, I'm in the Chicago area. And so we have some schools who are facing overcrowding. They have large populations, are trying to go to a true blended environment where perhaps only certain students come to school at the physical building a few days a week. And then the other days a week they work from home. So that type of program where you are actually going to be doing like a virtual program or a blended program, that could take as many as 3 years, I would say, a minimum, to get that fully rolled out. And Frank said that they're doing a really great job, but like, look how long it took. So in the first year, we've all experienced with COVID, we've experienced that you can get a remote learning program, up very quickly. Well, once you get through that kind of, you know, fire alarm phase, then you need to step back from it and really look at what's going on with it and where are the gaps and where are the improvements. And that, you know, you all know what that is because everyone has received parent phone calls or parent emails. Teachers have maybe said, this is working, this is not working. So in that next sort of year, let's say, over the summer, we're all going to be doing it. We're going to be kind of our triaging, kind of seeing what went right, what went wrong, what can we do for the fall. But that's a big reason why many schools are really hoping that they go back to school in the fall, or it's maybe 12 weeks into the fall. Because in order to really up the quality, you are going to need another, you know, another full school year in order to really iron out all of those kinks. And then by the second year, definitely by the third year, you can get going with it. So I think all of us, you know, it's funny because a lot of our partner schools, you know, they all have Chromebooks or they all have iPads, and it's great to have technology. And we always say, you know, leading with technology is not the best thing to do. You don't just give a teacher a Chromebook or give a student a Chromebook, because then it's just a textbook, right, at that point. So now I think there are a lot of schools who are actually realizing the gaps in their programs, and they're realizing where they could be and how exciting it could be and how they could really jump into the future and how they actually need to be jumping into the future. And so nobody wants to continue on this fast path. Everyone wants to slow their roll and really get it right. And so I would love to be able to do that with schools going back to school in the fall, take next school year to continue working on it, continue perfecting it. As Frank said, roll it out with a few teachers, expand, expand, expand. And in 3 years to 5 years, then you can have your set program. It'll be great.
So I guess my question, Jennifer, if a school has never used any type of digital technology, kind of what are those elements that are really helpful to kind of get up and running? Would you say digital curriculum is key if they're using textbooks, or where would you start?
Well, I think I would start at first with your planning committee, bringing some key stakeholders on and really looking at what you have right now. What do we have right now that we can use? So a lot of textbooks come with a digital component that probably, you know, for some people it isn't being used. So do we have anything, do we have access to anything digital right now? You might have a lot of Google Classroom teachers that you don't even know about, because a lot of teachers go get certified on their own just because they enjoy putting their syllabus or doing discussions and doing more of a flipped model on their own without direction from the school. So go in and see if there's any early adopters, if there's any leaders that you could use. And that is the planning phase. And then look at your budget and see what you can afford to do, because that's really going to drive how much professional development you can do, what kind of technology you can bring on, and the level of training. And that is another reason why you want to, in order to get it right, you want to spread it out over time. Because I think the reason why a lot of schools are needing federal money right now from the COVID is because they've had to bring in digital curriculum or tools, hardware, software, teacher training, all that kind of thing. And that's really cut into a lot of budgets. So I think if you start looking at what you have, and then bring in someone who's already done it before. So everyone, like Anthony was saying, all the Facebook sites, you know, I get through this panel that we're on, we get all kinds of helpful webinars and things. I have teachers randomly from around the country emailing me. The number one request I've had is, how do you do special ed in the classroom? So these are teachers that are Googling on their own and are finding people who are experts and figuring it out. They should not have to be doing that. Let's get together as a team, administrative, teachers, technical, and hand that information to the teachers and to the students and family. There are people that have done this for years, so don't reinvent the wheel and find those key people to help you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Teachers shouldn't feel overwhelmed that they have to figure everything out.
Right.
Absolutely. Okay, Anthony, what are some tips when presenting lessons online?
Yeah, I definitely offer some tips, but I also want to add one thing to what Jennifer said is you want input from teachers, administrators, parents, but you also want input from students as well. And how do you solicit that input from students? Like, what is working best for you in your situation that you're in right now? And I think that could really help to creating an engaging online learning environment. So as far as presenting lessons online, we talked about this before, and what Frank was doing in his district is short videos. That is key for students. Try and keep it as short as possible and condense the information because you will lose students after about 4 or 5 minutes. Anything longer than that, especially with the younger students. I think there's some kind of decay curve or something, some graph I wish I had that said amount of minutes and attention span or something. You know, it's just, you got to try and keep it as short as possible, as visually appealing as possible. And that visual appeal is both in your presentation of the lessons and information, but also in the consumables that the students are accessing in your course. So one method of effective online teaching is not a wall of text and links that students have to go through, but hopefully something more visual that students can interact with, whether it be infographics, you're using Google Slides to create a visual clickable PDF document that kind of outlines what students need to do. The more information you have on there can be information overload. The other thing that I would suggest, both for teachers and for administrators for informational technology and things like that, is reduce the amount of clicks involved in accessing a resource or document or anything. The more clicks you have, again, that's going to be on that curve. The more clicks you have, the less users are going to engage with whatever resource that you have. So if it's right there, easily accessible, you will have far more engagement with the curriculum than you would if they had to click here, log on there, go over here, download this app, upload this file. Everything should try and be contained within one area as much as possible. And that's really important for the younger students. We're talking K5, even K6, 7. Once you get into middle school and high school, then we're, I would say, in a sense, trying to prepare the students for if they're college bound, what kind of experience they would find in a college type classroom, but try and keep it as simple as possible.
Okay, great. And Frank, I know this question comes up quite a lot lately. We've been hearing is, how do the teachers know that their students are doing the schoolwork, that they're keeping up with that? Is there a good method?
So, you know, we use Google Meets here, and that's what we use for our communication. So we kind of set up a schedule when the school at home all happened. And I'll just kind of go through that. So every Monday and Friday, the fourth period teacher is contacting all of their students for fourth period. They're checking on, do you have enough food to eat? How are things at home? How are your parents? Do you have any questions about your schoolwork or what you got? Because we release assignments every Monday. And I'll talk about that in just a second too. But we really just wanted those students to have contact with the teacher, because that school is, a lot of our students only get away from home. Does that make sense? It's their only safe place. And so we wanted to have that social well-being and what's going on. Our counselors have set up some connection times with them as well, which I'm going to talk about later this afternoon on that 2:30. But we've also done on Tuesdays and Thursdays is on Tuesday, your first through fourth period, there's office hours. There's a schedule. So 9 is your period 1 to connect with your teacher. 10 is your period 2, and so on. And then Thursday is your 4th through 8th period. Now, our elementary is doing that throughout. So if you're self-contained, you're setting up those meetings with those students. Even in elementary, if you're not self-contained, you're still setting that up. So our elementary is done a little bit different, but our secondary is by the book. On Tuesdays and Thursdays is when you're meeting, and Monday and Friday you're going to talk to your teacher and catch up. So we've also moved all of our admin meetings to Google Meet, all of our parent meetings. So one school is having open mic night for their students through Google Meet. One school is having, or a bunch of our schools are having parent meetings at night. You can join at this time to ask those questions and what's going on, because that's the thing about it, is we want to get information out to parents. We want to be transparent. And the thing about it is, if you don't give them that information, they make up their information, right? So we want to make sure we let them know what we're doing. But one of the coolest things is we've moved all of our special ed ARD meetings to Google Meet, and all of our special ed department wants to continue doing that after this, which is an amazing thing, because these parents normally take off to come to this ARD, and if they can just get online to meet, and we're not traveling all over. So that was, I'll just say this, our special ed department is not always willing to move with technology times, right? And I don't know about yours, but this has really got them excited about different ways to do things. I think this is what the COVID has done, is like, there's another way to do this with a lot of our staff. So like I said, all of our admin meetings have moved to it, but those teachers are being in contact with those students throughout the week. And then you asked about kids without access to internet. And we've kind of been fighting that throughout. Spectrum put out free for 2 months. We've actually outfitted a couple buses with some Khajiits and parked those around town where students can go to. We've had some MiFis that we've handed out. So we've been trying to get all these kids access. And a lot of parents are just tethering off their phone. They really are. They have a cell phone and they're tethering. But we've asked that question to try to get them that internet. But our students and teachers have been in contact, and they are in contact weekly. They might be going on a digital field trip with their teacher. Like I said, the open mic night is so awesome. I've got some great pictures of that. But our teachers have really been rock stars through this, and our students as well. So it's been good.
Sorry about that. I love the digital field trip idea. This question was coming in. Some states are talking about having the middle and high schools being used for the elementary students so that they could spread out the students, and then using middle school and high schools students have to work online. Is that something that you guys feel would be a good plan to do remote? Anyone want to answer that?
Yeah,
okay.
I've heard the same thing. I think it was Denmark that brought their elementary back first, and it was China that brought back their secondary first. So we know with elementary, if they're not at school and we can't get them, we're missing bigger gaps in elementary. If we miss those gaps in elementary, we're never going to catch up in secondary, right? So we've talked about the same thing. Our 5th through 12th have been one-to-one for 3 years now. They're used to using those devices and learning online. So I think that's plan C or D for us. But I have heard that, and I do think it's a good plan if you need to bring kids back to school and get that social distancing, because you're closing those gaps for those elementary kids, which will help in the long run.
Well, and also the fact that, those kids can't stay home alone, and if parents have to go back to work, that is a good idea. Here's another one. How do teachers evaluate and conduct virtual assessments? Anyone want to take that one?
I can take it real fast. Our secondary kids are on Chromebook. So if you give a quiz through Forms, it locks them into a tab. But I don't know, a lot of teachers are just making sure they're hosting that meet while the kids are taking it and kind of watching them take it. So I have different outlooks on that. Like if I don't know the answer to something, what do? I Google it. So I kind of look at that too. Can our students, if we're giving them Googleable questions, then don't get mad if they're Googling the answers too. So.
What happens though if it's a
Yeah.
project-based kind of a concept? Because I know that's a lot of questions have been coming in from the summit. You know, what if it's a hands-on thing? How do we do that part?
There are ways, I think, just speak to that real quick. There are ways to create and represent your learning online that doesn't involve multiple choice questions, true or false. There are ways to draw your learning. There are ways to record your understanding through video, ways to present it in a visual format. I think multiple choice questions and things like that as summative assessments have value, but I think we are moving beyond that, and we're moving into more of a creative representation of our knowledge, because now we have access to all these creative tools for students to really demonstrate their understanding. And I think we need to really move towards that, of allowing students to creatively demonstrate their understanding, because they're going to be more engaged with the content and curriculum if they can create something awesome and wonderful, and perhaps something that no one has ever created before. And I think leveraging those tools is really important.
So I'd like to speak to that a little bit too. So I've been an online teacher for over 15 years. And when I first started, it was a lot of multiple choice, a lot of, using the LMS tools and the different types of 5 different types of questions the LMS gives you. And then over time, in order to meet like questions of rigor or questions of authentic assessment, then you start to learn more, and as more tools become available, then all of a sudden there's a lot more out there, a lot more ways to assess. So, I mean, we offer everything online. So if you have a science lab, for example, I mean, you could do physics labs, you can do chemistry labs just with things in your home. And the teacher does a demonstration video, and the students sometimes may have the option to video themselves doing the experiment. As well, it's not harmful. We do oceanography experiments with students at home doing water quality. They just have to have like a puddle in their front yard. So all kinds of different assessments. And I think the number one question that we get is, how do you know that the student is doing their own work? How do you know it's authentic assessment? And as Frank said, kids are used to Googling everything. And so I think the biggest issue that people have when they're new to online is they don't realize that everything that we do that's formative is open book, really. You can use your notes, you can have a different computer, you can have your phone. I cannot stop that, right? And that's okay, because what's important is how the assessment is written. So you never want the assessment to be something that is just spitting back the answers, where students can just say yes, no, 15%. That's not an answer. And so that's when you get into project-based, that's when you get into real world, that's when you get into designing. So in a math class, you get a question like, you're going to plan a party for your school. This is your budget. This is how much you can spend on this. This is this, this is that. What would you do? So now every student is going to have a different scenario, a different party, but they're still being tested on the same content. And so you have to be very clever in how you write the assessments, the formative assessments, in order to get every student to give you an individual type of answer. And then on summative assessments, yes, they can be objective, they can be short answer, things like that. And however, we can lock those down. And so those can be proctored. You can have a question bank. So you've got 1,000 different questions, and students are getting all different questions, because it was a real eye opener when my son, who's now in college, did his first online, his high school got an LMS, and they were taking quizzes on the LMS, and they were all Snapchatting the quizzes to each other.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh, this teacher needs to be trained that that's what students are doing. You need to have more than 15 questions for your quiz if you don't want them to cheat. So you just creative, and it's training.
Yeah, I think a lot of times teachers, you know, are they able to use like a phone, or what would you recommend if they're going to demonstrate a lab and then they want the kids to use a lab? Is it simple enough just to set up their phones and record? Do you?
Absolutely. I mean, you can get, we just got a little phone stand from Amazon or something. I think it was $14.99. And that little thing, it just sits up, it holds your camera. It's perfect. You look professional. And I think that really helps, you know, parents oftentimes want to see that, because I get so many questions. My kid's taking chemistry. Is he going to blow up my kitchen? It's like,
Yeah.
no, here's the experiment. And by the way, we also offer alternate assignments.
Yeah.
And so if a student can't find something, because I tell you, the other day there was no sugar at the Walmart. So if a student can't find sugar, what else could they use? Or can I give them the results and then they just write up the lab? So, you know, as far as differentiation, you always have to have some of these alternatives as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's the virtual lab options too, which are starting to gain traction. A lot of virtual labs that are available as an alternative. Nothing beats real live hands-on experience. But as far as recording video, and I don't want to make another plug for it, but I will, is Flipgrid is just really easy to record your videos and understanding to that. And the benefit of that too is some students are really shy and they don't want to share themselves, and you could have the videos moderated where only you, the teacher, can see it, none of the other students. So
right. And we never force students to put their image out. So students are always allowed to just, you know, do the part that's important. They don't have to put their face on the internet. I know personally my children are not allowed to put their faces on the internet. So we've had to work a lot with how to do a podcast or how to do a presentation on Flipgrid without showing your whole face. Show a part of your face or show your hands, etc. So that can be worked out as well.
Yeah, my son had a project, a science project, where he had to have a thermometer, and I thought, I'll never be able to find a thermometer right now. But it's amazing, if you go to a science site, you can actually get any supplies you need, and that was a really handy thing someone told me as a parent. You know, you don't always know that you can go there, so I'm sure that's kind of a nice little tip. Frank, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, one cool way we use Flipgrid, which we use Flipgrid in the district, but we did our virtual job fair on Flipgrid for all of our sites. So that went real good as well. But the other thing I was going to say with Anthony, we're talking about video here, is us as adults don't like to be videoed. Our kids are constantly making videos. But as a teacher, they'll decide, oh no, they won't want to do it. Kids love videoing themselves, you know, so that's the thing about it too.
I agree. I think it depends on the age too. I think once you're 8th grade and higher, you become more conscious of your image out there and what people think of you. K7, they're like, yeah, look at me, look at me.
Yeah, you got to rep to protect.
My daughter wants to do a video every day of herself, so it depends. I maybe girls. Here's another great question that just came in. It says, what is a typical size tech support team for online education that you guys would recommend? Like, how many people do you need? How much funding for that?
Funding.
I'll answer that. We've actually been running this with 1/3 of our staff since School at Home started. Our technicians are hourly, so they got sent home with pay. If we brought them in, we had to pay them time and a half. So we were able to do it with our tech department with 1/3 of our staff. But we have, for 14,000 students, we have 16 desktop technicians, and we have 4 instructional technology facilitators. But what we do is we use our instructional coaches. We make sure they're trained up and good, and a lot of them are Google certified trainers. We have 33 or 36 in our district Google certified trainers now, and a lot of those are our instructional coaches and our CILs. So, which is our instructional coaches for our secondary. They get a period off, but it's to use the people on staff. It's not really the number; it's the number of people that are rock stars, is what I'd like to say. Through this distance learning that we went through, we want to have a unified front. We have 26 campuses, but we want to have a unified front. So if you were in 4th grade math, you were doing this 4th grade math lesson, right? You had choice. We did choice boards with them. You can go online and look at them. But we want a unified front. So we're talking about starting in the fall too, is you got to use your rock stars and figure out how they can help all the other teachers. You know, I think Jeff was talking about the slow start and how to go from year to year to year, and we've been doing it on year 5. We still have some teachers that are not good in classroom, are not good at blended learning. I mean, they know how to put an assignment in classroom, but at least they know how to put it in classroom. So if we can give them the lesson and let them facilitate it, but how to put it in, then that's very powerful. So it's really, I don't think it's a total number. It's more about the good rock stars you have.
Yeah, like a lead teacher within that grade level, right? That kind of supports the others. I think that's a great approach. Well, we're actually out of time. There's a lot of questions that actually came in. So this is such an important topic. You know, we just want to make sure that you understand that we'll get back to you on those questions. Also, just so you know, everyone who came today will get a certificate of participation. I know a lot of schools are counting this toward PD, so we'll make sure that goes out a day from now. And also you'll have a survey so you can provide us any information that might be helpful. And if you'd like to visit any more of our summit, we're going on all day today and tomorrow. So you can go to tinyurl.com/EDL Summit. And you can continue to register. We have 21 workshops and 7 panels. So thanks. And some of these folks will be there again on different topics. So thank you guys, your panelists, for joining us and giving those great insights and helpful tips for our folks here online. Thanks so much again. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.